Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Chloe Carmichael, clinical psychologist. Thank you so much for checking out my video log today about the ultimate guide to breakups. Now, if you're watching this, I'm guessing that you maybe have been through a breakup recently, or maybe you're going to share it with somebody who has. And so I just want to start by saying I know breakups can be one of the most difficult things that we can experience, especially if it was a relationship where we felt really close to the person and part of our identity even was about being in a couple with that person. It can be almost disorienting to feel like you've lost a part of yourself at the very time when you need support. The person you would normally go to for support isn't there. And I know that can be really hard. And I don't think breakups necessarily put people into a depression, but breakups can be depressing a little bit for sure. And in psychology, one of the things that we say sometimes is that sometimes we think about depression as anger that is turned against the self. And so one of the things we want to watch out for in a breakup is to make sure we don't become really hard on ourselves, start picking at ourselves, or feeling ashamed or like there's something wrong with us for really wanting our person, for really wanting our partner. So before I read the blog, I just want to start by saying that that's a really special, wonderful desire to want to find your partner and to have the right person. And I just want you to be gentle with yourself and, not kick yourself when you're down. So I'm going to now go ahead and start with my blog. So also just to say a little bit about why I'm reading my blogs. What it is that I love to write. I'm an author. I have books and blogs and all that stuff. But I've come to realize that many people really like to watch and interact in more of a person-oriented way. And so that's why I'm just actually reading my blogs now online. And I might kind of stop and look up and talk about them a little bit. And I might even skip over certain parts too. So feel free to click in the links of the note sections of this post if you want to check out and actually read, the actual blog. So here we go. The Ultimate Guide to Breakups by Dr. Chloe Carmichael. Breakups can be brutal. Here's what you need to know. We all know that breakups can be incredibly painful. As a clinical psychologist who works with high-functioning people, I know that if you're an intelligent and persistent person who likes to make things work, it can be mind-boggling to encounter a situation where no matter how much you want to make things work, the only thing really to do at a certain point is actually to stop and move on. Of course, it's almost impossible to make a breakup easy, but at least there are some strategies that can potentially make the process a little bit easier and help you be prepared to make good, healthy choices when you're ready to date again. By the way, I have to say, sometimes people ask me, is it too early to date again? When should I date again? All of that kind of stuff. And I just want to say that's really going to depend on the person. For some people, behaviorally, getting out there and going out with other people helps them to actually demonstrate to themselves that there are other people out there. And sometimes having new experiences can start to make the past start to feel a little bit more like the past. On the other hand, if you went through a breakup and you feel you need time to heal, by all means, take that time, especially if there's something about the relationship dynamic that felt really unhealthy, and you might want to take a moment to understand how you got into that unhealthy dynamic before you necessarily start dating again right away, because you maybe want to make sure you don't repeat the old quote, mistakes. I don't like the word mistakes as much as I like, a phrase like learning experiences. But in that question of, when should I date again? It's up to you and it's personal, but those are just some of the things that I might think about, as you ponder that question. So here are some tips that can help. And I'm just noticing I've got 8 tips here. So in case you're curious of how many tips we're in for, it's going to be 8. So tip number 1 is don't grieve alone. Losing a relationship can feel almost like a death of the relationship. We were not meant to grieve alone, so consider making sure that you're always with a supportive friend or family member for the first week or two. Especially if you lived together or spent a lot of time together, you may be feeling a major void. Obviously, a friend or a family member doesn't fill the void, but at the very least, it can be helpful to surround yourself with support during a grief or a loss. Some people even arrange to stay on a friend's couch or have a friend stay with them for the first few weeks, because our bodies actually go through almost a withdrawal of, that comfort of being around someone. And it's not the same, obviously, but we do need to be surrounded by support when we're grieving. So tip number two is to experience healthy touch. Consider booking yourself some massages. On a certain level, part of what you're experiencing may pertain to a sudden loss of touch or affection. Our bodies actually acclimate to certain frequencies of touch, so a breakup can feel like a double whammy. We're losing emotional support and simultaneously experiencing a dramatic decrease in the amount of physical affection that we receive. So right when we need that physical comfort the most is when we're no longer, getting as much physical affection as we used to get. So it's like a double whammy. Now, while a massage certainly isn't the same, it can help your body and mind to at least experience positive touch. Plus, massage has been shown to reduce cortisol levels. Cortisol is a stress hormone and might rise during breakups, and so a massage can actually help with that. Tip number three, eyes open. You may want to make a list of the top 5 times when your ex hurt you or disappointed you or other negative points that may help you to realize that in fact the person is by no means perfect. We sometimes view our exes with rose-colored glasses, which can make it harder to move on. If you thought your ex was perfect, but they just broke up with you out of the blue, you might consider making their inability to make or keep a commitment to you as part of your list of what actually you didn't really like about the person. Sometimes just realizing that a person is actually not the stable, reliable relationship person that we initially thought they were can help to decrease that person's desirability, thereby making it at least a little bit easier to move past them. Consider making this list a screensaver on your phone or having it somewhere that's really easy to see. If you feel that you may have your ex on the "but they were so perfect" pedestal that's making it hard to see things squarely. You may also want to ask a friend to help you recall some problems or issues if you're feeling really stuck in, a belief that the person was perfect. And I just want to say that can be hard. And I keep comparing this, to bereavement or grieving because it is kind of like a loss in that way. And when we lose somebody that we wish was there, it can be hard to get angry with them because we feel on a certain level like our anger is going to just push the person away. Even in memory or even in kind of our mental relationship, it can be hard to be angry with somebody, and which is kind of a push away emotion that we actually really wish would be there for us. So as hard as it might seem, I would encourage you, with tip number 3, is to really face the situation with your eyes open, noting down all of the things about that person that actually weren't so great, perhaps even, again, including the fact that they broke up with you, that they didn't show up, that they weren't able to commit. Those would actually be hopefully things that would maybe take the person down a notch, because when you met them and originally got interested in them, they were kind of broadcasting themselves, or you are perceiving them as somebody that was willing and able to, make a commitment, make and sustain a commitment to you. And if you're finding out that that actually isn't so, it can be good to make sure that you're revising your mental, category of how you're viewing that person. So tip number 4, don't be afraid. Sometimes we may obsess about the past as a way to avoid re-entering the dating world, because on a certain level, we are afraid of repeating whatever potential mistakes may have led to our current situation. If you think this might be the case, make sure that you find ways to learn from your past relationship and maybe have some support as you ponder dating again. I have to plug my book here. Consider checking out my book, Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating. And you can see that at drchloe.com/dating. I have, videos, audiobooks, all that stuff, paperback, Kindle, whatever, or any other dating books that resonate with you. It certainly, just flipping my page here, it doesn't have to be my dating book, obviously. So whatever dating book is going to work for you. But whatever book you get, consider getting it in print as well as on audiobook, since sometimes listening to a self-help book read by a friendly yet focused voice can feel almost like listening to a supportive, knowledgeable friend giving you a pep talk. Remember this thing about, not wanting to grieve alone. We kind of might need almost like a constant chatter in our ear about new habits, looking forward, all these things. And in psychology, we also call it modeling, not like fashion modeling, obviously, but when we see a person doing a behavior that we want to do or embodying a mindset that we want to embody, sometimes it's easier for us to do that when we see or hear a person doing it than if we just read it in a book. At the same time, I think sometimes quiet contemplation and focusing on a book can be really helpful too. So I just personally would almost think about going all of the above. I've done that before myself with certain books and material that I just really wanted to internalize. So again, it doesn't have to be my book, but whatever book you get, think about, maybe getting it in a couple different formats that would help you at different times of your day or different moods. Maybe sometimes just walking around the city, I listen to audiobooks, and then, sometimes maybe reading a book at lunch, or whatever, however it works in your life. So tip number 5, fill your brain with new experiences. Part of why breakups can feel so painful is that we may feel that everything in our current environment reminds us of our ex, whether it's being at home and thinking about how you and your ex used to spend time there, or going to work and thinking about how your ex used to meet you for lunch nearby. It can sometimes seem as if everything in our life reminds us of that person. One way to change this is to deliberately create new experiences to help the old memories start to recede a little bit into the past. New experiences can also subtly reassure us that there are other possibilities in life. Whether it's traveling somewhere new, taking a class in something that you've always wanted to try, or even finding a really gripping novel, find ways to give yourself new positive experiences that are independent of your ex. Tip number 6, get your rest, but also get out. You may find that sleep is the best medicine in certain situations. Your brain needs to process what happened, and sometimes that happens best while you're at rest. A little hibernation can be restorative, so don't be afraid to put on an audiobook. There I am with the audiobooks again, but again, whether it's, it doesn't have to even be a dating book, just audiobooks can be helpful because that way you can close your eyes and rest, but you have something else that your mind can follow for its, mental narrative, so that if you close your eyes just by yourself without an audiobook, you might find your thoughts are just tracking onto your ex. And so one way to help yourself to not have to struggle with that as much potentially is to put on a really interesting podcast or audiobook or something like that. By the way, I have to say, I do have a podcast as well, The High Functioning Hotspot. But again, really, whatever audiobook or podcast or your music can be good too. I mention audiobooks because sometimes it's nice to have something for your mind to follow rather than leaving yourself alone with your thoughts while you try to rest, especially during a breakup. While it's good to get your rest, also know that sometimes a simple walk in fresh air or a chat with a friend can do wonders if you start to think that you might be overdoing it a little bit with the hibernation. Tip number 7, look out for loneliness. One of the most confounding things about a breakup is that you may be used to relying on your ex for emotional support, and now here you are in need of extra emotional support right now because of the breakup. Yet you're also experiencing a sudden decrease in the availability of emotional support since your ex is gone, and maybe they were one of your primary sources of emotional support. It's like being very hungry, yet being blocked from the kitchen at the exact moment that you need to eat. You may benefit from what I call a breakup buddy who agrees to be available for you to call in lifeline situations when you're struggling, and potentially even plan a calendar so that you're proactively booked with friends, even like every night for the next week or two, or if Sundays, weekends are hard for you, maybe just making sure you always have a brunch date. Surrounding yourself with supportive friends can also help bolster your sense of self-esteem. Self-esteem can suffer during breakups. And so again, surrounding yourself with people who are going to be supportive of you can help to offset that hit to your self-esteem. Plus, it can make it easier for you to see that you can absolutely be happy and have good times even without your ex. Friends can also be helpful if you just need a pep talk or want some perspective. Tip number 8, remember your last ex. If you're feeling like you'll never get over your current breakup, it can be helpful to remember previous breakups when you may have felt the same, even if it's thinking back to how your high school sweetheart seemed like the one for sure, and remembering how intense those feelings were at the time, and then realizing that in fact you did go on to meet someone that you liked even better, potentially your current ex. Take refuge in knowing that you will likely move forward and meet another person that you may like even better than your ex one day, even if it seems as impossible now as it did to your high school self years ago. This can help to put things into perspective and remember that you have gotten over breakups before, and you have been pleasantly surprised to meet someone new in your life. So odds are that it may happen again. If you're worried about the breakup part happening again too, you may want to see item 4 in this list, which is the one about making sure that you learn from life's experiences, about not being afraid, and understanding that you might want to, if you're worried about getting into some kind of a breakup cycle, to maybe read some relationship books, talk to a relationship therapist, or do some work on yourself to understand what's happening for you with relationships if you're really worried, that the breakup part is just going to keep happening again too. But I don't mean to focus on that too much, because really the idea is that by simply knowing that although we went through a breakup before and then we met someone new again when we didn't think we would before, odds are that that's probably what's going to happen again. And one of these days, it's going to work. Most likely it will work, and that you'll finally meet your person. Whatever you decide to do, please take good care of yourself. Know that your desire for a strong relationship is nothing to feel ashamed of, and take refuge in knowing that you are not alone. By definition, everyone who is not in a committed relationship shares in common with you the fact that they have not found their person yet. So you are totally normal in this regard. The key is to take good care of yourself so that you can move forward in a healthy way and find fulfillment. So I just want to say again that if you check out the links here in the post, there should be links to the actual blog if you wanted to read that blog, or my dating book. And at my practice, one of the therapists at my practice actually is getting ready to launch a totally free virtual book club about my dating book, Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating. So if you wanted to check out the free virtual book club, you could certainly do that if it's still running at the time that you happen to see this video. But we might come up with some other good stuff too in the future. So I just want to say one more time, thanks for watching. Please know that you're not alone. And I hope that you'll take good care of yourself. If by any, reason that you think that you need more support, of course, don't hesitate to reach out and, get some professional help or see a therapist, because there's definitely help available if you need it. But you might do fine to just heal and reflect on your own. Thanks again for watching.